who would know if you were sad?
Mm.
And would they know what you need? Though that will be really telling that I have people that are close to me that I trust.
Mm.
That's USC Focus in the UK. Are you coming?
Okay, hello everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I am with Joanna Daniel, and I'll just ask you to introduce yourself and tell us a bit about what you do.
So I'm Joanna Daniel. I'm a counselor, trauma-informed counselor, and I'm an author. I run a private practice from my home, and I speak in churches around mental health, around trauma, and the impact on trauma on our mental health, our parenting, our romantic relationships, just the pervasive effects of trauma.
Wow, that's so interesting. And how long have you been doing that for?
This year would be 10 years.
Yeah, yeah. And what got you into trauma? Was it from your personal experiences, or was it just something that you identified needed to be addressed?
I tried to avoid it, but the Lord sent me back into it. And I learned about the adverse childhood experience research.
Mm.
And I remember watching a conference and thought, whoa, when I learned of the physical impact of trauma that we experience in our childhood. And I said, God, what's going to make the difference? And he said, I do. And so that's it really, because I tried to avoid it. I tried to not work with sexual trauma. I tried to not do any of those things, but he kept, this is where he wanted me to be. And so now the other day I was reflecting, I think I sit with people who experience traumatic things
Mm.
and I sit with them through that, help them heal through that trauma, whatever trauma that they've experienced.
Wow, that's so beautiful. And I thank God for you for answering the call because we need more therapists like yourself. I can speak on my own experience as well. So I suffered with like anxiety and depression. And I didn't know for a long time that I had these things until I
Mm.
was like, well, maybe the Holy Spirit actually inspired me, like, go to therapy. And I actually
Yeah.
found out, where I was like on the scale of things. And it's really good to work through these things, like what you're saying, to sit through them with
Yeah.
someone who also has, like a religious background,
Mm.
because it's so easy to find therapists who believe in, oh, in Virgo, Aquarius, astrology, and all of these things. But to actually find someone who stands firm in the faith is so beautiful to see.
Mm.
So would you say then, being Seventh-day Adventist is something that you include within your sessions, or do you keep the two separate and you just pray for your clients, before and after the sessions, or it's something that you include?
They're separate unless the client wants to introduce that. So I don't introduce anything to the client. It's the client who, if the client wants it, then it happens. Many people who I work with don't know, even though they're a Christian, they don't know that I am. And sometimes my clients who are Seventh-day Adventists don't know that I am. Because if they didn't know before they come, then they don't get to know because I suppose my stuff don't get discussed, unless it got to the place where it kind of happens. But yeah, I don't pray with my client unless they ask for
Mhm.
that to happen. If we contract around it or if they ask for it to happen. Some people want it, some people don't want it, and sometimes it doesn't get mentioned. So
Yes.
it depends on what the client wants and what they ask for.
Right. Okay, that's great. Thank you so much. So, you're actually one of our speakers for GYC Focus
Yeah.
UK. How are you feeling? Are you looking forward to it? And do you know what you'll be speaking on as
I
well?
am looking forward to it, and I do know what I'm speaking on, so that
Okay,
if
perfect.
I find it,
Yeah.
I am looking forward. Found it because I've forgotten.
It's
So at GYC Focus, the title is Understanding Wholeness, and the first steps, because some people maybe I know before, some people I'm going to meet for the first time.
yes.
Some people may have never done anything around healing. This might be their first introduction to anything around emotional healing. Some
Mm.
people still have myths and ideas in their mind around what it is, and so we feel like a gentle introduction
Yeah.
for some, and for those who have started, it would be maybe a refresher. So
Mm.
we're looking at the first steps towards healing.
Mhm.
And then we'll look at practical steps that people can take to move forward. One of the things that I'm really passionate about is not opening up wounds for people and leaving them, not being able to close it, not providing a place where people are just talking about their experiences and send them off triggered and not attended to. So we're going to give practical steps that people can use right there. So if we start with this understanding wholeness and giving them the concepts and help them to reflect on their experiences, we
Mhm.
want to give them tools to use to help with those experiences after they've left GYC. So they're not left in a place of hurting, because sometimes that can do more harm than good, you know?
Mhm.
It can set people back, and sometimes they'll never try again. Um, yeah. So that's what we'll do. Open it, close it, not leave people in a triggered place.
Wow, I love that so much. So, for someone who's come into GYC and they've recognized, yes, I do need healing, before they come to your session, do you have any tips or any prep work that they can do before coming to GYC to receive what the Lord has given you to share?
I think not just come open, you know, with hope. Hope.
Yes.
When I do groups. I'm in a 6 months group right now. We're in month 2. And when we're doing check-in, what people check in with at the beginning of the 6 months when we started last month is what you're checking in with. There are hope, curiosity, anticipation. So if you come with openness and curiosity and anticipation and hope,
Yeah.
then that hope will be met, and that curiosity will give you more understanding, and that openness will give you tools that you can use that is going to help you. And if not help you, help somebody else if you feel like you're at a place where you do not need it.
Yes, yeah, that's great. Wow, I love how you use emotions as well to like really help people to check in because sometimes we actually don't know what we're feeling or what we
Mm.
feel. Yeah, yeah. So I love that. That's
Yeah.
great. So bring an open heart and bring some hope with you. Yeah.
Yeah, bring some hope. Bring open heart, and come prepared to be challenged, I
Mm.
think. And I'm saying challenged not in a, no, but we're not pushing, we're not going to push, just
Yeah.
gently prod, that kind of challenge. Because I believe that Jesus wants us to be whole. He
Mm.
said that's what he said in his word so many times. Psalms 147, verse 3, I think, or is it verse 13 that comes to mind. I will heal you of your wounds and restore health unto you. And sometimes people suffer so long, because they don't believe that there is any hope, or they
Mm.
don't believe that they can be helped, or they believe this is the only way that I'm going to get help. I was thinking about something, Samantha, recently, where this quote from Ellen White has been used at me for so many years, as proof that I shouldn't be doing what I'm doing. But God's method alone will bring success,
Mm.
she said, and I don't remember where it said. And as I was reflecting on that this last week, and I'm going through the Conflict of the Ages series, and I'm in book 2,
Mhm.
and following the path through the Bible. Amazing journey, And as I'm learning more and more about him, I'm like, yeah, it's his method will bring success for sure. But what is it? People think his method mean only this. That means you must not need therapy. That means you must not attend to your mental health. That means if you struggle with depression or anxiety, something must be wrong with how you're thinking. And all of those myths that we hear that keeps people in bondage. And his method is compassion, it's
Mm.
kind, it's patient, it's gentle, it's healing, it's forgiving. And so that's why I say to people, come with an open mind and to be challenged, because those ideas about healing will be challenged for sure.
Mm.
And you'll be uncomfortable, but that's a good discomfort. And so we want you to come with an open mind.
Oh, I love that so much. It's so true. A lot of us, especially in the church, we suffer for years and years and years thinking, oh, I'll just pray this away or I'll just read this Bible away. Of course, like those two methods are really effective and God
Absolutely.
can change. But, there are people who are um, equipped and who
Yeah.
have the knowledge to help
Yeah.
you through these like
Yeah.
really tough emotions and really tough things that we've gone through that we can't really, understand. And we can, yeah, we can actually recover from these wounds that we've experienced. So, yeah, thank you so much for your work. And yeah, those people that said that to you, they don't know what they're talking about. Yes,
Lots of them. We can recover. And I want, I think, young people are going to be at GYC, and I think it's such a good age to do the work.
it is.
To do the work at this age in your 20s, in your 30s, before you're married.
Exactly.
If you do the work. If you're not married yet and you're starting, that's an amazing thing to do.
Mm,
If you want to, if you're thinking about, please do the work. Sometimes people think, oh, but I didn't experience sexual trauma, so therefore I have not experienced trauma. And when we work with adverse childhood experiences, the research looks at 10 areas, and that's just one area.
mm,
So we look at neglect, emotional neglect, physical neglect. We look at abandonment, and attachment injuries. We look at parental separation or divorce, a parent who had mental health, somebody who went to prison in the family,
mm,
substance use. It's a whole list of things that we look at that we know is traumatic for a child. And there's an expanded study that's done around those. And now we look at community violence and bullying in school and the impact of those things
mhm.
on us as children, growing up in poverty, growing up with scarcity. I know we romanticize it when we're older and say, you remember when we only had one slice of bread? But that was traumatizing. And
Yeah.
and it creates patterns of behavior in
Mhm.
us, and when we grow up, we go with those patterns, and they are hard sometimes to undo, because we have to realize that they're there in order for the work to be undone.
Mhm.
And so that's why I say, if you're not married yet, do the work, because when you go into a relationship, they become highlighted and magnified
Mhm.
then, so important. But I can go on, Samantha. So do you?
No, no, please go on. I think it's really important that people do this work. And I think that's one of the reasons why I decided to do therapy, because I was like, I'm not married yet. I might as well do the work, before I get to that point where someone's like, hey, this is a mirror, this is who you are, and this is not nice. So yeah, it's great to do the work, especially before marriage, and
Yeah.
you're looking and to discover who you are as well, because a lot of us, we've been told, oh, this is who you are, this is who you are, and we want to be in this box, but God is trying to tell us
Mm,
that there's so much more to you. Like if
mhm.
only you could see, and sometimes, walking through with the therapist, you're able to see that those things that you were told that you are might not be true. And
Yeah.
God is actually saying, look, this is your inheritance. This is actually who you are, and you need to proclaim this.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
want to speak to something that just came to me, because I get to experience this. Like, there are people who grew up with two parents. They say, well, none of those things happened to me.
Mm,
But I want you to think about the generational things that happen to you that you will not be consciously aware of, but that you will repeat.
mm,
Your parents, what happened to them happened to you. What happened to your mom happened to you. What happened to your dad happened to you. Because it's coming down through the generation, and there's intergenerational trauma where, though your parents may not be separated or divorced, they're together.
yeah.
Nobody had mental health. You didn't feel like you were neglected, but sometimes attachment injuries are so difficult to spot. You may not have secure connection with your caregivers, because of what happened to them and what they came with, they weren't able to do that. So though you grew up in a household, and I'm speaking to Adventist young people, you may have morning and evening worship, but there
Yeah.
was emotional abandonment, and that emotional abandonment still create wounds. They may have been some lack in that home, and that still create patterns of behavior that form working models of relationships. And so we take those patterns with us into our relationships, because that's the template that we have, that's the blueprint that we have. So I want us to, that's why I'm so excited. I'm always excited when mental health or anything like this is on any agenda, especially with our young people, because I think it's so really important for us to start to look at. And while everybody might not think, well, I won't go to therapy,
Mm,
but if you have an understanding of it, then you can start reading around it. You start listening to podcasts, so you have an awareness and an understanding, so you can start do the internal work that is going to help you to have healthy, successful relationships, not only with someone else, Samantha, but with God,
yeah.
because we see all the time how this impacts our ability to trust Him.
It's true. It's so true. And it's like our relationship. I think I read something or watched something on TikTok that our relationship with God is often a reflection of our relationships with our earthly fathers. So let's
Yeah,
say your father on earth abandoned you, you're going to think, oh, God is going to abandon me. And that's going to affect your love relationship with him.
yeah,
And it's so interesting how like everything is interconnected. So
everything.
yeah.
Yeah. And not only because sometimes we don't look at mothers, and it really does too. Because sometimes what we think is a boy will marry his mother and a girl will marry. No, we marry the pattern where there was a lack, where there was deficits. And
Mm,
that's the pattern that we carry on. So a boy might carry on a pattern with that he had with his father in his other relationships,
mm,
and vice versa. But for sure, it impacts how we see God. So here's the thing. What if you weren't physically abandoned by your father,
mm,
but you were emotionally abandoned by your father? So he was at home, he worked hard,
mm.
he did long shifts, long hours, he worked two jobs, he provided, and you did not have emotional connection with him. So you can imagine how that impacts the relationship with God
Mm,
if you do not, if you so it can become performative
mhm,
if you do not understand that, hey, there's this deficit here that I really need to sit with and face. And it doesn't mean that I'm disloyal to my father. It doesn't mean that I wasn't grateful for everything that he has done, or my mother. It doesn't mean that I didn't love them. But I really need to understand this because there's this block in my relationship with God. I know I don't trust him. And sometimes people take a while to admit that. Do you trust God? Yes, they said. And we know we don't.
mm,
We struggle with trust. We
mhm.
struggle with trusting God.
It's
We
true.
struggle with really believing what he says, or even believing that what he says applies to us. Because
Mm.
when the rubber meets the road, we really run in the opposite direction,
Yeah,
right?
start to
And
panic.
absolutely, absolutely. So all of this really is about salvation. All of it really is about removing those things that can separate us from him, understanding them and moving them out the way so we can have that contact. And we know the enemy, he doesn't want that. He
It-
wants us to not face it, not
yeah,
address it, not believe that it's there even,
yes.
so that we can still continue to have the disruption.
That's so true. And oh, there's so much that we could talk about, but I just want to go back a little bit because you spoke about attachments and like realizing, okay, this is where maybe I'm lacking a little bit. And
Mhm.
this is how like my upbringing has helped me to attach to, friends or family around me. What are some of the indicators that we can use to say, okay, maybe I do need to have some work that we can
Mhm.
identify in our own lives? Maybe we can go through like some basic ones that people can say, okay, maybe that's me. Maybe I need to do some work.
Yeah.
Have any that you could give us right now?
I like when you say that because I tend to speak in therapist speak, and
Yeah.
I remember when I spoke to Jeffrey and he said, "Oh, say it this way." I'm like, "Okay, I don't know how because I'm in my head." So, what are some of the things that do you have a friend? You may have a friend, or you may know a lot of people,
Mm,
but do you have anybody close? You know, and when I say anybody, I don't mean 10 people. It might be, do you have two or three people that are really close to you?
mm,
Here's a good one. Who would know if you were sad?
mm,
And would they know what you need? Though that will be really telling that I have people that are close to me that I trust.
mm.
Lots of people have people that are close, they have big social circles, they hang out, but nobody knows really how you're feeling
Yeah.
about anything.
Mm,
Like in that circle, who do you trust to tell when your sadness?
mhm,
Who do you trust to tell when you're feeling in despair?
mm.
Because sometimes we can be in with a lot of people, but we still have loneliness. We still feel lonely because we've not allowed anybody in.
Yeah.
So if you feel like there's a block with you allowing people in, that's a really good indication
Mm,
that there's something here that is stopping me from allowing people to connect with me. Or what do you do when people come close? Do you pull away emotionally?
mm,
Do you sabotage the relationship by doing things to make sure that this friendship ends quickly?
mm,
Because sometimes that's underlying feeling of abandonment, like they're going to leave anyway, so let me just do something really fast to make it end. Do you have a stream of broken relationships, even friendships? You think, oh, I was friends with that one, but now I'm not, or those people, but now I'm not. And is there a continuous pattern of this happening for
yeah.
you in your life? That's an indication that I'm not letting anybody in. Do you have people that you can tell how you feel? And do you feel like the people who you can tell how you feel will listen? Sometimes people say, "Oh yes, I have friends. I have a lot of friends. I have friends who I talk to." But if you were sad today, would they know? And would they know what you need in order to feel better?
Mhm.
So those are some things to really answer. Who do you let close? Or are you the person in the friendship group that listens to everybody and fixes it for everybody else, but
Yeah.
you do not trust anybody to tell them what's going on for you? Do you give permission to anybody else to fix things for you?
Mm. Wow, that is incredible. And honestly, I can say, so I did like a year of therapy, and Samantha before therapy would have answered those questions in a totally different way to the Samantha today. So it's just proof, I'm living proof, a testimony
Yeah,
that therapy does work. And yeah, it's just incredible how, just asking these questions, you can actually identify the
hmm,
the places where maybe you might have some trauma, maybe you might need to do some work. So
yeah,
for anyone who's watching this, that you've got the help that you need. There's so many charities, there's so many
yeah,
different places that you could go to get the help that you need. So yeah, thank
for
you so much
sure.
for helping us to identify that. Okay, so um, let's talk about spiritual hurt or like church hurt.
Mm.
Can therapy help to improve with those like spiritual wounds as well?
Absolutely. And it's something that we're learning more and more about.
Hmm.
Um, learning I pause because I'm reading a book around the maze of spiritual abuse. We're learning more and more about it because more and more people are talking about it now. And I think it existed for a long time, but we didn't give it much attention. And we're finding that spiritual abuse is just as impacting as any other kind
Yeah.
of harm, and I think maybe more. I think there's probably a second part there because we expect church to be safe,
Yeah.
and when it's not, and we're hurt there, it can be so devastating
Yes.
because we're expecting, it's supposed to be safe. It's kind of like when you're hurt at home, you just think parents aren't supposed to hurt us.
Mm.
But so that's why, yeah. But we're seeing it more and more now.
Okay. And what role does faith play in the healing process?
Faith plays a significant role in healing. People with a faith, research shows, with people with mental health and have a faith, they cope better.
Yes.
So our faith really helps us to
Mm.
heal. Now, because if we get hurt in church, it might seem counterintuitive, but our faith helps us heal. Faith groups help us heal. When you find a safe group where you can do prayer and Bible studies with, safe people that you can talk to and share with, they can pray with you and pray for you. You
Mm.
can talk about your hurt. That really does help people to heal faster, I think, when you have a faith.
Yes, yeah. And I think as well, it's about finding safe spaces because
Yes.
sometimes, yes, even though church can help us heal, but it's about having safe people around us. Like not everyone in church, just like not everyone in the world can be trusted.
For
So
sure.
you have to find your safe people like you said earlier, that okay, who can I speak to, when I'm feeling sad, who can recognize that I'm sad, like who can I share to, who have I opened
Mm,
up my heart to,
mm.
so that they could help me during this time. So
Yeah,
thank you.
yeah.
So, how can individuals learn to trust again after being hurt by a faith community? Because there are some Adventists who say, you know what, I don't want to be a part of this church anymore.
Mm, hmm,
It's a toxic church, it's a cult, but let's say maybe just one person has hurt them. So it's
mm,
not the entire Seventh-day Adventist
mm,
church, but
mm.
now they completely want to separate themselves because they don't want to be a part of this organization. Well, is it an organization? I don't know, but to be a part of this church, yeah.
Yeah. I was doing that with my group last week. How can we trust again after being hurt? And it's going to take courage because trusting again means being vulnerable again, means open up myself again to being hurt again, but trusting again means opening up to somebody else. But the difference is that now you understand what safe relationship looks like. Now you understand safe dynamics. And when we're helping people to trust again, we help them to build boundaries. We help them to understand um their boundaries and to be able to express it. We help them to be able to communicate. We give them conflict management skills, so all of those things will help as you're going back into a space saying, I want to learn to trust again. I want to open myself up to people again. I don't want to be hurt again, but I want to learn how to trust. And that comes with risk
Mhm.
because you might be hurt again because we're just humans having this experience. We're living together, right? And we're going to hurt people and they're going to hurt us for sure.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that we don't trust them, but it means that we're learning how to say no. We're learning how to, where our limits are. We're learning other people's limits. We're learning how to express ourselves when we've been hurt. We're learning how to ask for what we need. We're learning how to communicate it, clearly in those ways and be very clear about who we are and where we are and what we'll allow somebody to do and what we won't allow them to do. We're learning how to speak up when something is done that is harmful to us. We're
Mm.
learning how to self-advocate. So all of those things, as you start to do it, helps you to open up and start to learn how to let people in again so you can begin to trust.
That's true. That's great. And I love that you touched on boundaries because sometimes we feel like, oh, yes, I'm in the church. Oh, yes, I hold a position as elder, youth leader, deacon, or pastor. I can't say no. How can we exercise our boundaries in church without coming across as we don't want to serve God? But I'm just, I could be just tired sometimes, I don't have the energy. You can't pour from an empty cup.
Absolutely. What I say is you're saying no to the elder, not God. Very
Yeah.
different.
Yeah.
That's a very different thing. And if
I
they
love
say you
that.
say no to God, say no, I'm saying no to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's he's not God, or they're not God.
Yeah.
So it's if you know that because they think they're doing a good thing, that
Mm.
they're encouraging you to serve. And
Yes.
it's not encouragement, it's manipulation.
Mm.
When somebody said no, we need to respect it and step away. We
Mm.
can we can find out like if Samantha said no, but that's really weird. That's really strange because Samantha is usually active and want to serve. I wonder if something is going on with her. Let
Yeah.
me have a conversation with her and find out what's going on. Let me listen to Samantha a little bit. Maybe I can support her
Mm.
versus push, 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 push,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
so you're not saying no to God, you're saying no to the elder.
Mm.
So if you just be content with that. But here's the reason why we allow our boundaries to be crossed, Samantha. Sometimes we say no, they push, we feel guilty,
So
and
yes.
our guilt make us say yes when we really want to say no. And everything in us says, oh no, I don't want to do it. And we go
Yeah.
ahead and do it anyway. And we do it sometimes and resentment comes in. And so it's really important to just say no and stay with it.
Yes, yeah, that's great. Thank you so much for answering that question. And we spoke about rebuilding trust. So I'm just like going from question to question, but
All
things
right.
come into my head. So I really like what you said. It's about like learning to trust again, right? And it's sort of like, let's say you've been in a toxic relationship, like someone who treated you so bad, but like now you can't close yourself off now because
Mhm.
one person in the world, out of millions of people, treats you so bad. Now you can't say, oh, I don't want to love again. So it's
Mhm.
about like just relearning the whole
Mhm.
entire thing. And it could be such a beautiful process as well, as long
Absolutely.
as we ask God to work through us. And
Yeah, absolutely. It's a beautiful process. And I love how you say that. I say that to my clients all the time. So I'm like, did I work with her? No, I didn't. But I say that like there are billions of people in this world. There's somebody who's trustworthy,
that's true.
and you will meet them. And it's a really beautiful thing when you can allow yourself to trust somebody else and
Mhm.
allow yourself to be supported because that's what we deny ourselves.
Yeah.
The support, we deny ourselves love,
Yeah.
we deny ourselves all of those good things that God has for us when one person
Mhm.
hurt us. It's
Yeah.
don't close yourself off and not allow yourself to thrive in a relationship and relationships that will be healthy and fulfilling.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for that reminder. So we spoke about toxic people, toxic relationships, toxic churches. So how do we differentiate between, a healthy situation, healthy people, healthy church, and a toxic one?
Mm. Really good. Because I'm searching my head. I'm like, is there one? Right. I'm sure there's one. Because you have elements of probably both in many places these days, right? So
Yes.
we want to be able to identify toxic people.
Mm,
And so even within the church, and we want to be able to identify safe people
mm,
in the church, right? So we want to look at when we're looking for safety and people who are safe and healthy, people who are respectful,
mhm.
people who are kind. And, for the purposes of we're Christians, I suggest people who demonstrate the fruit of the Spirit.
Yes,
Really,
exactly.
if they don't demonstrate the fruit of the Spirit, they are unsafe,
Yeah.
right? And I mean, we could go down a whole list of
Mm,
things because we're looking at people who respect us, people who are kind, people who, when we say no, they accept it, people who are they're confidential. They keep what you share.
yes.
People who look out for you, where their words match up with their actions. All of those things, not just the person who preach and teach
Mm,
and say the word really well, but they're controlling and manipulative. They're unkind,
mm,
and also when you're looking at safety, look for patterns.
mm,
Believe what you see.
mhm.
If somebody says, because somebody can do kind things,
Yes.
but they're unkind.
Mm,
If somebody is kind to you and is unkind to somebody else, they're unkind.
mm,
That's just it.
mm,
If somebody is given to you and appear caring to you, but they're not to somebody else, they're not caring.
mm, mhm, mm.
So look for the consistency
Yeah.
of actions that people do over time
Mm,
and trust what you're feeling because the Holy Spirit will tell you. Your
yes.
body will tell you. Our bodies always tell us. Sometimes we don't learn to listen to our bodies, but it will tell you
Yes.
that I'm feeling comfortable here.
Yeah. Like my stomach, it feels a bit
Yeah,
tight. My
yeah,
chest feels a bit tight. I'm breathing, a bit more intense, our body
yeah.
does tell us. Wow, that's great. Thank you so much. And that's great. So, fruits of the spirit, I think that was my main takeaway from the question. So thank you so much.
I mean, I could go into, safe relationships have
Yeah.
honesty and respect and
Mhm.
trust and openness. But when I'm thinking in terms of us as a Christian, I thought when I think safe relationships, I think love, kind, patient, long-suffering, gentleness. And as we act that out, that makes us safe too. So I wanted to kind of put it in language that also we could connect it to who
Yeah.
we are as
Yeah.
people.
That's great. Thank you so much. Thank you. And let's say someone, so I was actually on live the other day. I was actually, sorry about that. So I was actually on live the other day and someone asked, okay, if I'm in a toxic relationship or a toxic situation, how do I now get out of there? I know it might be a long process, but like could you give us maybe some tips where we can get to the place where we're no longer in this toxic situation?
I think the first thing is it's good that you recognize that it is toxic.
Mm,
Awareness is a really good place because now you understand that this is. The second thing is don't try to fix it because you can't,
mm, mhm.
because it's not your job. It's
Yeah.
not the relationship it's not a relationship problem. It's the individual's problem, and
Yeah.
you can't fix that.
Mm,
So, because I know sometimes we want to fix it and we think maybe if we burrow down deeper, if we love harder, if we do more things, then it will change. It won't. So the awareness and acceptance that this is what it is and it's not something I can change.
mm,
And also learn how to, in a toxic relationship, if it's safe, sometimes it might not be safe. Please, assess your own physical safety.
mm,
Don't be afraid to call the police and to, you know, go to safety if
mm,
you need to. So that's awareness, acceptance, and start to be boundaried. Because in a relationship like that, chances are you've allowed yourself to let go of boundaries that you have.
mm,
You've compromised them a lot. So you have to start now looking at what are they? Where are the areas that I've allowed things to happen that I don't like?
mm,
But in the interest of saving the relationship, I've started to allow it to happen.
mm.
Where do I need to stop doing that? So you're putting boundaries in because as you do that, you might start to experience things becoming harder. And that's why I says that's your safety. If you're physically unsafe, don't do it.
Yeah.
If this relationship is toxic to the point of if it's physically unsafe, don't try to do that in the relationship. You will need to escape now, today. Because we can't take chances with your life. We just can't do that.
It's true.
So if it's emotional, it doesn't mean that it's any less harmful, right? But I want you to know that you can't fix it. You can't fix them. The relationship likely is over, and you will probably need some support in sitting with that. And it doesn't mean you have failed. You haven't. You haven't done anything wrong, you know? So you will need some support to sit with, well, how do I move forward, knowing that this is toxic and it's not going to get any less so.
Yes. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. What a great answer. That was, yeah, literally everything that I was hoping we could cover. So that's great. Thank you, Joanna. Last question now. Can healing from trauma empower someone to live a fuller life?
Absolutely. I'm a testimony. So absolutely, absolutely. I believe it can. I believe that, it's such a worthy work that you will do. And you're not doing it so that you can help anybody else. You're doing it, as Samantha said, so that you can live a fuller life. Because it's almost like spring after winter.
Yes.
The sun is out, you see everything clearer, you experience joy, and you allow yourself to experience joy, and you experience peace, and you know what it feels like, and you can be with it comfortably. Everything, you have a keener sense of self, your purpose is clearer, and you have the inner motivation to be able to do things that you wouldn't do before.
Wow. Wow, that's great. That's great. Thank you so much. And I know I did say that was my last question, but I feel like sneaking this one in. So what are some key tools or practices that we can use to maintain emotional and spiritual well-being? And this will be my last question. Thank you.
Things to exercise. You must exercise. I'm talking to myself always when I say that. And there's so many different ways that we can do exercise to maintain our mental health.
Yes.
Make sure you're getting enough rest, really important. And a nutritious diet, again, is key to maintaining mental health. I just sent some recipes to somebody who I'm supporting on this 21-day journey. So exercise and rest, really key. Have good friends, a good support system that you can lean into. Let them know how you're feeling and how they can support you. And prayer and Bible study,
Yes.
really key. Spend time in the Word of God. Figure out for yourself what you like in terms of studying. I like to study. I've read through the Bible for years, and now I'm going through the Conflict of Ages. Second time I'm doing it. It's so amazing. It makes everything come alive because I think in images. And so figure out for you how you like to study and do that. You might like to read about Joshua or Moses or Daniel. Who do you like? Spend some time reading about them. So time in the Word of God, and time in prayer, and time with people who can support that for you, those values that you have. Align yourself with people who have similar values to you. So, because we know social support is important, we know exercise is important, we know rest is important, we know nutrition is important, and that trust piece is really, really key.
Yes, yeah, that's great. Thank you so much for those tools and practices. I'll definitely be practicing them. And I really do appreciate you doing this interview with us. We can't wait to see you at GYC Focus UK. And I'm hoping that I can come so I can be right in the front, rooting you on. But God bless you, Joanna, for everything that you're doing.
Thanks, Samantha. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'll stop.